Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to another video. So in this video we do have some pretty exciting Nintendo Switch news. The Nintendo Direct leaks that we were talking about in the past couple days, about a week or so I would say, it ended up being true and Nintendo confirmed it on their Twitter account. There's going to be a Nintendo Direct tomorrow. So we're going to talk a bit on that as well, because there's a lot of things that you have to wonder, like is Metroid Prime 4 going to be happening? Because there was another rumor that popped up about Metroid Prime 4 right around the time of the Nintendo Direct leaks. What's Nintendo's plan for the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct? Because if they're going to be showing games here, what are they going to do with the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct? And of course, what games could be shown? If you guys end up enjoying this video, make sure you guys leave a like. It helps the video reach more viewers when you do. And of course, subscribe for more Nintendo Switch news, including all the news that we're going to get from this Nintendo Direct. So when it comes to Nintendo Directs, I feel like all the rules are out the window. Usually you can tell when the next Nintendo Direct is going to be. Usually we have one in February, there's one in September, there's usually one in June. It's pretty easy to spot when a Nintendo Direct is going to happen, but ever since the Switch 2 really started to ramp up, especially after that trailer, Nintendo has been really hard to guess when they're going to be doing a Nintendo Direct and really what their plan is. And honestly, that's really exciting. I kind of miss those days where you didn't know what Nintendo was going to do. So when there were rumors from multiple sources popping up in the past a week or so, I would say, one from a Chinese insider, apparently. They leaked the Nintendo Direct over on Weibo. And then another source, Ninspider, the same user who created the drawing of the Switch 2 dock and tablet back in October, also was talking about the Nintendo Switch presentation Nintendo Switch presentation before the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation. And the interesting thing about that is that he said, I walked by Furukawa's office this morning, I heard him say Nintendo will die before Switch 2 dies. And then of course he made a winky emoji that kind of hinted that there was going to be a Nintendo Direct this month. And then Andy Robinson also hinted at a Nintendo Direct, and then also a fourth one. Nate the Hate came out and said that there was going to be a Nintendo Direct. He just didn't know what kind of Nintendo Direct it was going to be, and all of that was correct. And like I said in the video, again, just because this one came correct doesn't mean other ones will end up being right as well when it comes to future Nintendo Switch leaks and Nintendo Direct leaks, but it's still fun to talk about. And lo and behold, we do have that confirmed today. Nintendo of America tweeted this out. Tune in tomorrow, March 27th at 7 a.m. PT for a live stream Nintendo Direct featuring around 30 minutes of upcoming games for Nintendo Switch, not Nintendo Switch 2. They even say there will be no updates about the Nintendo Switch 2 during this presentation. Now the big question you gotta ask here is, okay, well if that's the case, then what games are gonna be shown here? What third-party games, maybe first-party games? Because as far as I can tell, this is just a full-blown Nintendo Direct, which is kind of crazy because we do have that April Nintendo Direct as well, and then not too long after that, June comes around, and probably that's when we'll see a lot of the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. When it comes to new games announced that will be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 in the next year or two. Well, one thing that we've learned recently from Jeff Grubb, another Nintendo insider, is that he said, quote, the reason I learned about this Nintendo Direct is because of a partner game, and there's gonna be a game that will cause a lot of conversation, and it's not necessarily a Nintendo one. So that's pretty interesting. Apparently this game is supposed to be a really big game. Now of course when it comes to Jeff Grubb, he's been wrong in the past, but he's also been right in the past as well. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what game this could be. Maybe it's something from a third-party developer that people will be really surprised that it's running on the Nintendo Switch. And maybe this unknown game is gonna be a Nintendo Switch 2 game, but they just won't say, hey, this also runs on the Nintendo Switch 2. Thus confirming that, you know, they're not lying, that they're not going to be talking about the Switch 2, but they kind of are at the same time, if you guys know what I mean. I mean, the Nintendo Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the original Nintendo Switch when it comes to games, so these games will run on that console as well. The next game that could show up here is Metroid Prime 4. Now, we did get a trailer for Metroid Prime 4 already, but the thing that I'm talking about specifically when it comes to what we're going to be shown here, if it's going to be here, is a new rumor that recently popped up, and this is what Stealth4K over on Twitter has to say. Rumor, according to Exist sources, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond isn't going to be featured at the Switch 2 Direct next week. Now we know that a full Nintendo Direct is happening, so I'm wondering the reason why it's not going to be at that Nintendo Direct, it's because it's going to be at this Nintendo Direct, the one that was just announced, which would be really exciting. I'd love to see some more info on this game because we really don't know too much about that game. We just have the gameplay snippets that we got from the original trailer, so that's going to be really exciting. Overall, it's going to be exciting because I love getting news on Nintendo games. I just like to know what's coming out in this, especially on the not Eve, I don't want to say Eve because that would be tomorrow, but we're so close to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. I'm really curious on what the games will look like, if any of these games will obviously be at a lower setting because it was also made with the Nintendo Switch 2 in mind. If any of these games are going to show anything where we could say, yeah, that's probably going to look way better on the Nintendo Switch 2, or yeah, that was definitely made for both consoles. You know what I mean? So it's just overall exciting. Now, another game that I think could finally appear. I know people are just waiting for this. The Legend of Zelda games. I'm gonna make a video on like what I think Nintendo's gonna be doing with the Legend of Zelda games when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, because just because they showed these games here doesn't mean they can't show games at the Nintendo Switch 2 presentation, which we'll talk about that in just a second. But the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, those are two games that could potentially show up here. Now, the reason why I say this is because the last we heard, Nintendo was just sitting on these games and they were going to release it at the right moment. And what better moment would be right before the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, announce those? Hell, it would be amazing if they stealth dropped that. Remember, Metroid Prime 1 also got a stealth drop. And speaking of those games as well, another game that could appear here, the remasters for Metroid Prime 2 and 3. Again, from Jeff Grubb, he said that those games were also going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, they won't be as big of an upgrade that Metroid Prime 1 Remastered got, though. Keep that in mind. But according to him and other insiders, that still exists. Now, those are very old rumors. Take those with a grain of salt, but that's another thing that could appear there. The reason why I'm bringing up like remasters and remakes is because this is just before the Nintendo Switch 2, and I would assume they would be using a lot of remasters and remakes to fill in the gaps until the bigger games for the Nintendo Switch 2, so we might get a lot of those. Now, when it comes to third-party games, that's I think where things get a little bit more interesting. Of course, Jeff Grubb already said that there's going to be a game that isn't first-party, but it's going to shock a lot of people. There is one thing that kind of popped up in my mind. What about Xbox games? So we know that Xbox games are going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, and not just Xbox games, Call of Duty games. So there's actually two options that could be here if we're talking about Xbox games. A Call of Duty game, I don't know why I said Call of Duty game. Call of Duty game could hit the Nintendo Switch and of course the Nintendo Switch 2 because backwards compatibility. But there might be also other games that are going to be releasing on the Xbox. Jesus, I cannot talk today. That excitement is really getting to me. That are also releasing on Xbox that could end up releasing on the Nintendo Switch. We know that Xbox is going to be bringing more of their games to more platforms. We already have some games on other platforms, and they've already been pretty outspoken at this point on their plans on how they're going to be running their business when it comes to exclusives on just, PC and Xbox, or also multi-platform. I mean, for what I can see, it looks like Xbox is just going third party. So maybe that game that Jeff Grubb was talking about is maybe something from Xbox or one of their studios that they own. Now, it doesn't even have to be a first party because there are games that Nintendo, how should I put it, that you think about that are Nintendo, but aren't necessarily first party IPs, if you know what I mean. Like, what if there's going to be a new Banjo game and it's coming out on the Nintendo Switch? Now, I would be shocked if they announced it at a Nintendo Direct first, instead of an Xbox Direct or Xbox announcing it themselves. But what about that? Or maybe a new Bayonetta game. Maybe that's also gonna happen. It doesn't necessarily have to be, Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong. It could be one of these IPs that either are much beloved or we just don't really know much about. Or not much about, but we haven't seen a new game in a while, I should say. There were rumors of a new Star Fox. Well, I guess that would be first party. But there are rumors of a new Star Fox game. There's also rumors of, if I remember correctly, Astral Chain. There's an Astral Chain sequel that was rumored as well. There's even details on it too. So maybe that's another game that we'll see here. I don't know. It's going to be very exciting to see what we're going to end up getting. And let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What games do you think are going to be at this Nintendo Direct? Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.